supposed to do something today. I don't remember. I'll just watch the Blue Book, I guess.
On Project Blue Book. Spaceships, aliens, all this stuff we're asked to investigate. The Air Force knows they don't exist. There is nothing.
So how did you see it? Shined on me with headlights.
Really helpful if you just create a protection circle while you're dreaming. That way nothing really attacks you.
Creepy feeling to overshadow me.
Shortly after, I started feeling a burning sensation.
Hi, I'm Andrew. Are you tired of your Ouija board not working?
I don't even like the movie.
How'd you like to learn?
Okay.
Welcome to Alpha Reviews.
Of the Silver Screen.
My name is Andrew.
And my name is Matt. This is our first crossover, and today we're going to be reviewing the movie Ouija.
And the board itself.
Alright, so the movie Ouija came out in the year 2014.
It was pretty terrible.
I'm fully on board with you on that one. I honestly think it was one of the worst movies I've seen in a long, long time.
I had a hard time paying attention to it. I've actually tried to block so much of it out.
Yeah, I mean the cast was terrible. I mean, I think they cast like mid-20-year-olds to play the role of like teenagers,
Yeah.
and then they had teenagers cast to play the role of 20-year-olds.
Yeah, I think the sister was actually like 25 years old. The younger sister was actually like 25 years old, and the older sister in the movie was actually like 15 years old.
Yeah, it was
you know what I
younger.
mean?
Where it was painful. It really was a painful movie to watch. The death scenes were very predictable. I mean,
Yeah, you knew what was coming the whole time.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm trying to think of a highlight of the movie, and I think it was the end. But yeah, the Ouija, obviously, like 2 thumbs down on that one.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible. I would agree with that. So let's get to the fun part, the board.
Yeah, the board can't be that old, can it be?
I think the first advertisement was like 1891, so it's just a little over 100 years old.
It's about as old as the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah, you're right. So the first advertisements came out in Pittsburgh at a toy store, and they claimed that it told the past, present, and future with great accuracy.
So going back to the Brooklyn Bridge thing, a New York newspaper company had found it, to be interesting and marvelous, and to be proven at the patent office before it could be sold for the wonderful price of $1.50.
$1.50, that's fantastic. This board, $50 right now. $1.50? That'd be nice. So the design in 1891 was basically the same thing that you see here. You see the semicircles at top with the alphabet, the yes and the no, the goodbye. It was the numbers at the bottom. It was all pretty much the same.
Now, isn't there a piece you're supposed to use to, like, tell the story?
Yeah, it's actually called a planchette. It was basically a little triangle that had a window in the middle of it, and it just kind of it moved around the board, and it just focused on whatever the spirit was trying to say.
So the idea behind the Ouija board was that 2 people would sit around a planchette and put their fingertips on it, and they would ask, spirits some questions, and sometimes would be dumbfounded because maybe something actually happened and maybe something didn't.
Me being the skeptic, I don't believe that the board is doing anything. I still feel like it's one or the other person that has their hand on the planchette moving it themselves.
But like in movies and books I've read, stuff, it says that, these Ouija boards actually like have a demonic possession.
I don't believe that at all. None of my research leads me to believe that at all.
But wouldn't you, if you were a person like playing with someone else, wouldn't you feel them pushing the planchette at you? I mean, if you're...
I mean, it's still, someone moving it. Wouldn't it be the same as if a person was doing it, as if a ghost or a demon would be moving it? It would be either... You don't need the board as a catalyst. It is the actual physical person themselves that give the power to do so.
So the person would have the power to move it, but not move
Yeah,
it.
I mean, you can use the board as a catalyst if you want, but really it is yourself that is giving the power.
So, where did the whole idea of the Ouija board come from?
So in the 19th century, there was a big boom of spiritualism. There was a serious obsession with spiritualism.
So, what is spiritualism, and how did it really come about?
It came about in the 1840s in Europe, and it took off when the Fox sisters brought it to the U.S.
The Fox sisters. Now, weren't the Fox sisters known as like fraudsters? Didn't the one sister Margaret say something?
Yeah, Maggie. Maggie actually came out in 1888 in public and showed everybody, did a little demonstration on how all the sounds and the rappings were conducted and all that stuff. And if you really want to know more about it, just leave some comments, let us know. It's a pretty interesting story.
So I've also heard that the spiritualism has even gotten all the way to the White House.
Ah, yes. Mary Todd Lincoln. You may have heard of Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. His wife. They actually conducted some seances in the White House after her 11-year-old child had passed away. Yeah, there was a lot of seances. Because of the war, there was a lot of death and a lot of loved ones lost, and they wanted a way to communicate. And this was one of those ways that people thought they could do so with.
And speaking of the wars, it was like the Civil War too, right? So it would have been a lot on
It would have been,
American soil.
a lot of deaths on American soil. Yeah.
So it really wasn't uncommon then.
No, it was actually very common. Back then it wasn't weird to communicate with the dead like it is now.
So is that kind of like what led to the whole Ouija board concept?
Yeah. I mean, people started getting really bored of just hearing knocks and, ooh, did you hear that? So the Kenner Novelty Company really nailed.
So, kind of from what I was studying, it sounds like in 1886, the Associated Press reported a story out of Ohio that, at spiritualist camps, they had this new phenomenon of a talking board that
The talking
had,
board, yeah. They had letters and numbers, yes and no.
Yeah, kind of like the goodbye,
Mhm.
the symbolic circles.
It actually, the article actually reached so far out that it caught the interest of Charles Kennard out in Baltimore, Maryland.
Are we talking Charles Kennard of the Kennard Novelty Company?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, him and Elijah Bond and Washington Bowie, they came together and kind of created this masterpiece. Yeah, and they actually didn't have a name for it yet.
But didn't it come from the French word oui and the German word ja?
No.
So where did the title Ouija come from then?
It actually came from Bond's sister-in-law. She was actually sitting around it and asked what it should be called, and it replied with Ouija. And she asked, what does it mean? And it said, good luck.
I find this story very fascinating. So I did a real quick Google search here. Apparently, yes, that Helen Peters was, the one that came up with the name Ouija. But it also says that she later admitted on that she was wearing a locket with a picture of a lady with the name Ouija above her head.
Okay, so the lady in the locket is actually Ouida. She was a women's rights activist, and that's actually where they think the spelling came from, was actually a misspelling of Ouida. Going back to what you said earlier, yes, they did actually have to prove that it worked to get the patent for it. So Bond actually brought Peters to the patent office, and the patent officer demanded that he demonstrated that it worked in front of him.
What did this demonstration consist of?
So the patent officer asked them to properly spell his name, and apparently they didn't know how to do that because they had no idea what his name was. So they asked the question, and put their fingers on the planchette and supposedly properly spelled his name, which I guess freaked him out, so they gave him the patent to the new game. I got a Ouija board in the trunk of my car. Do you want to try it out?
Oh, I don't know. Let's just go back to the history of the board.
Alright. So the first patent actually doesn't show you how it works, but it does promise that it does.
So, pretty much, the less they said kind of made it more mysterious.
Yes, more mysterious, but a moneymaker. And it was a moneymaker. He went from just having one factory in Baltimore to having 2 factories in Baltimore, 2 factories in New York, 2 factories in Chicago, and 1 in London. Yeah, and a weird thing happened, man. In 1893, they were just out. So in 1 year, 1892, 1893, done. William Foe was just an employee. He became a stockholder and then started running the company.
So I've done my digging in the New York Times and came across his obituary, and it did mention him as the inventor.
It
But he
did
didn't
mention him.
that.
It did mention him as the inventor, but he wasn't. What's messed up? He actually died in a freak accident, falling off of the roof of his factory that the Ouija board told him to build. Much like the Civil War and World War I, and Prohibition, it started to get a big boom again.
So during my research, I found out that a single department store in 6 months sold over 50,000 Ouija boards.
They are pretty interesting. You want to check one out?
I don't know, man. I'm still kind of on the fence on that one.
Come on, what's the worst that can happen?
Would you like to play a Ouija?
Have you not seen the Poltergeist?
Poltergeist? What the fuck is that? So in 1967, the Parker brothers purchased the game. And at that point, they had sold 2 million copies of this game, outselling Monopoly.
I wonder if that's why Monopoly never turned into a movie.
Oh, it would have been a better movie than Ouija.
Is that the truth?
So the board had been floating around all this time. Mysterious, fun to play with, but not threatening. Until 1973.
The Exorcist.
The Exorcist.
So we could use this as a topic for a future Spirits of the Silver Screen episode.
Or we could play with a Ouija board.
Ouija boards! Get your Ouija board! Ouija board! Get your Ouija board!
So, what happened to the Ouija board after?
So eventually it just became a tool for the devil. So over the years, religious groups started denouncing it, and it's pretty funny because until The Exorcist came out, there was no denouncing of the board.
At what point did Hasbro come into the picture?
So in 1991, Hasbro actually purchased the Parker brothers, and they've since then they've actually sold hundreds of thousands of them. And the reasons for purchasing these boards now are a little different. People buy them now because they want to be scared, because they want to see something crazy.
The Ouija board says you're gonna die.
So this is probably why they use them in scary movies or movies meant to scare you, such as in like Paranormal Activity and
Yeah, scare factor.
the movie Ouija.
So scientists have done a lot of research on this board and a lot of conducting of testings. They can't come up with anything.
So what you're saying is there's really no evidence of anything behind the Ouija board.
Nope. Come on, I'll show you. Come on.
Slightly touched.
Slightly touched.
Is there anyone here tonight that wishes to speak with us?
Does anybody want to communicate with us? We have a device here. All you have to do is move it. Move it to yes or no. Just say yes. If you're moving something, you just say yes. Right? Is my parents gonna let me go to that concert?
I thought I saw Matt's car. Where is he at? Is that Matt?
Moving it, man.
It's not me.
Dude, this is crazy. I'm like, if you're not moving it, I'm not moving it. Who's moving it?
It's not me.
Dude, this is not okay. It's like I'm getting chills right now.
Matt, what are you doing? We're supposed to be doing your Changeling episode.
I'm using the Ouija with Andrew.
Andrew isn't here. He's in New York.
No, he's not. He's right here.
Matt, is everything okay? Ever since that Poltergeist episode, you've been acting strange lately.
I don't know, man. This is crazy stuff going on.
Alright, so we're here, day one. We finally made it.
Cheers, man. Oh my god, don't do it. I'm just kidding.
Aidan's like super excited. Aidan, tell him what sausages you face.
Louisiana hot link, Nuremberger, South African sausage, and our gaze sausage, which is lamb. And it's gonna be fantastic.
So far, I think we're all enjoying this Pike's Place Market. Super good. Too sweet.
So.
There's Aidan. He's just like, what's up? Do you mind being in our?
This is my friend. This is our friend Seth. Oh yeah. I like this soup.
Thank you guys for joining us on this episode. If you guys would like to check out some alpha reviews, check out the top left corner.
Hey, if you'd like to see more Spirits of the Silver Screen, check that bottom left corner. And any of our new Culz videos, right up top.
And don't forget to like and subscribe. Oh, we could have a dog in the picture.